She said, "My sister and her kids get your office. Work from the kitchen," I said, "then move out." She laughed and texted her sister to start packing boxes. By Sunday, there was a minivan in my driveway, my pastor on speakerphone, and my lawyer emailing the notice that ended everything. Original post: I'm Evan, 35M. I work as a senior data analyst for an insurance company in Columbus. I'm remote 4 days a week. Which means my home office is not some optional little hobby room. It is where I earn my living. My fiancée was Alyssa, 32F. She worked in school administration, very organized, very polished. Very good at acting like a decision was already agreed on if she wanted it badly enough. We'd been together a little over 3 years, engaged for 6 months. She'd been living in my townhouse for just under a year. Important detail: the townhouse was mine before I met her. My down payment, my mortgage, my insurance, my risk, my name on everything. Alyssa liked calling it our place. Fine. That felt normal at first, but after the engagement, our place slowly became our decisions, and somehow our decisions kept meaning she volunteered my time, my money, or my space without asking. Her cousin stored baby gear in my garage for 6 weeks. Her friend borrowed my guest bath for a whole weekend because she was fighting with her boyfriend. One Saturday I came home and there was a birthday lunch for her aunt happening on my patio that I had known absolutely nothing about. Every time I pushed back, Alyssa told me I was being rigid. I kept saying the same thing. It's not rigid to want to vote in your own house. Apparently that line never landed. The blow-up happened on a Saturday afternoon in my kitchen. Alyssa had gone to lunch with her sister, Kendra. I picked up takeout on the way home and was setting containers on the counter when Alyssa said, completely casual, "My sister and the kids are taking your office. You can work from the kitchen." I turned around and honestly thought I'd heard her wrong. What? She leaned against the island like this was already settled. Kendra was separating from her husband. Things were tense. She needed somewhere safe for a little while. The office was the only room big enough for both kids, and I could easily move my desk to the kitchen because, in her words, "You're just on a laptop most of the day anyway." I asked how long a little while meant. She shrugged. "A few weeks, maybe until Christmas. Don't make this into a thing." Then she said the line that ended it. "You don't get a vote, they're my family." I looked at her for maybe 2 seconds and said, "Then move out." She laughed. Actually laughed. Then she grabbed her phone and texted Kendra right in front of me like I was bluffing and everybody knew it. She said, "See? This is what I mean. He always gets dramatic when family needs help." I said, "No, I'm being clear. Your sister and her kids are not moving into my office, and if you think you can make that decision without me, this engagement is over." That changed her face fast. Suddenly it was, "Are you seriously choosing a room over children?" I said, "No. I'm choosing basic consent over your habit of volunteering my home." Then came the tears, angry ones, not heartbreak, outrage. She said Kendra had nowhere else to go. I said hotels exist, extended stays exist, her mother existed, her own apartment existed before she gave it up. What didn't exist was a version of reality where somebody moved 3 extra people into my house and told me I didn't get a vote. She called me cold. Said this proved I would never be a real husband. On her way upstairs to pack an overnight bag, she said, "Call me when you're ready to act like family." I didn't call. I spent the next 4 hours doing paperwork, photos of every room, screenshots of texts, mortgage statement, utility bills, HOA login, homeowner's insurance. Then I called a real estate attorney a guy from work had used during a property line dispute. By Monday morning, I had real advice. Because Alyssa had been living there long enough to get mail there, I couldn't just throw her stuff outside and change the locks like an idiot. So my attorney drafted a formal notice ending her permission to occupy the property and giving her a deadline to retrieve her belongings. Clean, legal, boring, exactly how I wanted it. By noon, I had 7 missed calls from Alyssa, 4 from Kendra, 2 from numbers I didn't know, and 1 voicemail from our pastor saying he hoped I would lead with compassion. I sent 1 text. Pickup needs to be scheduled. Communication in writing only. That was when the whole family decided I was evil. Update 1. It's been 5 days. Alyssa still seems more offended that I meant what I said than upset the wedding is off. That appears to be the real injury here. Kendra showed up first. Tuesday, just after 6, beating on my front door hard enough to rattle the side glass. I didn't open it. I checked the doorbell camera and spoke through the app. She said, "My kids are in a hotel because of you." I said, "No. Your kids are in a hotel because your sister offered you a room in a house she does not own." That did not go over well. She called me controlling. Said decent people make sacrifices for family. I asked if that principle extended to her best friend's condo or our mother's finished basement, because I noticed I was the only person being volunteered. Silence for maybe 2 seconds. Then she called me heartless and left. Next came Alyssa's cousin Becca from a number I didn't recognize, telling me I was punishing children to make a point. I replied once. Alyssa offered space that was not hers to offer. This is the consequence. No response after that. Unexpectedly, the first reasonable call came from Alyssa's mother, Paula. I braced for yelling. Didn't get it. She sighed and said, "I'm not calling to fight. I just need to know if Alyssa can get clothes for work." That was the first sane sentence I'd heard in days. I told her yes, but only if it was scheduled and only if someone neutral was with her. Paula got quiet for a second, then said something I honestly didn't expect. "You don't give away a man's workspace and house like you booked an Airbnb." I told her that. She didn't want to hear it either. That call changed the whole temperature for me, not because it fixed anything. It didn't. But it reminded me I wasn't losing my mind. Alyssa came the next afternoon with Paula. I had everything ready in the garage, garment rack, labeled boxes, bathroom stuff bagged, shoes lined up, electronics separated. It looked like a very depressing little boutique closing sale. Alyssa took one look and said, "Wow, so 3 years fit in cardboard now," apparently, I said. She kept trying to pull the conversation sideways. Memories, wedding deposits, how much time she'd spent making my house feel warm. Then she tried to take my standing desk converter, one of my monitors, and the patio heater. I stopped her, calmly. Receipts on my phone, purchase history. Bank statements, done. She looked at Paula and said, "Can you believe this?" Paula looked exhausted, not angry, just done. She said, "Alyssa, take what's yours and stop making this uglier." Alyssa cried the rest of the time after that. Before leaving, she said, "Enjoy your empty office." I said, "It'll still be more peaceful than working from a kitchen I got exiled to in my own house." She slammed the trunk and left. That night she posted something vague about men who choose square footage over children. 2 mutual friends sent screenshots. I archived them. Receipts. Always receipts. Update 2. It's been a little over 3 weeks, and Alyssa did what entitled people always do when reality refuses to cooperate. She escalated. First, she contacted my HOA pretending to still be an active resident and asked them to approve a second parking tag for Kendra's minivan because family is moving in temporarily. That email got forwarded to me because the account was in my name. Then she tried work. Someone sent an anonymous complaint to HR saying I was unstable, retaliatory, and using housing threats to emotionally abuse a partner with displaced minor children involved. I got called in on a Thursday morning. I walked in with a folder, texts, ownership documents, the formal notice, camera screenshots, timeline, everything. My director looked through it, handed it back, and said, "You're fine. Also, this is insane." Exactly. Then came the fake emergency. Friday night, Alyssa texted that Kendra's hotel reservation had fallen through and they just needed to stay one night. One night. That was all. I stared at the screen for 10 seconds and sent one line back. "If it's temporary housing, call one of the extended stay places I already sent you." Nothing for an hour. Then our pastor called and told me this was a moment to show grace. I told him grace is asking, not informing. He went quiet after that. Saturday was the part that almost made me laugh. Alyssa actually showed up with Kendra in a minivan, a literal minivan. There were plastic totes in the back, 2 booster seats, a folded pack and play. They had genuinely decided that persistence was going to become occupancy if they just arrived looking busy enough. My camera caught the whole thing. I opened the interior door, not the storm door, and Alyssa said, "We're done discussing this. Kendra's just bringing in the basics." I said, "No, she isn't." Kendra tried the wounded voice. "Evan, I don't want drama." I said, "Great. Then get back in the van." Alyssa started crying again and said I was humiliating her sister. I told her she'd done that all by herself when she promised housing that wasn't hers to give. Then I called non-emergency and asked for an officer because 2 adults were trying to force occupancy after written notice had already been served. By the time the officer arrived, Kendra had moved from embarrassed to furious. Alyssa had moved from furious to victimized. I kept it simple. House pre-owned. Engagement over. Notice served. No consent for occupancy. Repeated third-party interference. The officer looked at both of them and said nobody was moving into that house without the homeowner's permission. That ended that. Monday, my attorney sent a cease and desist. No more HOA contact. No more HR complaints. No more church intermediaries. No more attempts to gain access. That finally slowed things down. And while all this was happening, my real life got better. I got promoted to lead analyst on a new team. Better pay. Bigger bonus. More responsibility, yes, but also more peace because I wasn't coming home every night to a relationship where every boundary became a referendum on whether I was a good person. I started sleeping through the night again, started going back to the gym. Had dinner with a woman named Nora that my coworker set me up with. Nothing serious yet, just easy, which felt new. Paula called one more time after the minivan stunt. She sounded embarrassed. She said, "Evan, I'm sorry." She told everybody a very different version. I said, "I figured." Then she said the line that pretty much closed the whole thing for me. Helping family is asking. Taking over somebody else's home is not help. Exactly. Final update, it's been just over 2 months now. This will probably be the last update because there isn't much chaos left. Mostly cleanup. One courtroom morning. And finally, peace. Alyssa filed in small claims asking for $6,200 for household contributions and relocation expenses. Sounds impressive until you translate it. Rugs, decorative shelving, part of the internet bill, groceries, some cookware. And incredibly, a share of Kendra's hotel costs because I caused the displacement. My attorney told me not to get emotional, just get organized, so I did. Bank records, utility statements, receipts, pickup photos, camera timestamps. The formal notice, the HOA email, the HR complaint timeline, text where Alyssa literally said I didn't get a vote. Alyssa showed up dressed like a guidance counselor on picture day, soft voice, hands folded, very different energy from the woman who brought a minivan full of storage bins to my driveway. The judge asked a few simple questions. Did you own the townhouse before the relationship? Yes. Was her name ever added to title, mortgage, or insurance? No. Did you agree in writing or verbally to house her sister and children? No. Did you withhold property she purchased? No. Did you promise to reimburse hotel costs for third parties? No. That was basically it. Claim dismissed. Alyssa cried outside the courtroom. Kendra glared at me like I'd kicked over a church collection plate. I got in my car and went back to work. No speech. No victory lap. Just done. A week later, Paula mailed me a small box with some engagement photos and a note. I wish she had listened when no was still just no. That was more accountability than I ever got from Alyssa. As for me, I'm good. Better than good, actually. The promotion stuck. The office is mine again in a peaceful way, not a defensive one. I repainted it, bought a better chair, mounted a bookshelf I actually wanted. The house feels quiet again. Normal. Mine, Nora and I are still seeing each other. Slowly. Like adults. The other night she asked whether she could leave a sweater at my place and then immediately laughed and said, "Sorry." That sounded more serious than I meant it. I laughed harder than I expected. That's probably the lesson in all this. Love is not somebody else volunteering your peace. If someone says family, commitment, or compassion means they get unilateral control over your home, your time, or your ability to work, that isn't closeness. That's entitlement in softer language. Alyssa didn't want partnership. She wanted authority she had never earned. She wanted me to confuse surrender with kindness. I didn't. Best decision I made the entire relationship. If you've ever had somebody call control helping family, tell me in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe and share this with somebody who needs the reminder.